It's time to take more of your questions and comments. Let's just get right to it. Kathleen, she said, the radical protesters love to claim Israel is committing genocide. Have the decades of Palestine, in quotes, committing religious, ethnic, and genocide been forgotten? Well, sure. It doesn't even feel like the decades have been forgotten. It feels like the genocide that happened 7 months ago was forgotten. How quickly we all forget. What happened in October? Thousands dead, thousands murdered. And what happens? Israel gets about 2 weeks grace period to be the good guys. And then what happens? Of course, the media decides that Israel is bad and the Gaza Hamas-led terror regime is somehow the ones being oppressed.
And remember, right after that, when some of the earliest protests that started happening, about 2 weeks after, as you said, there was that grace period, but you saw protesters chanting from the river to the sea. And a lot of people at that point were like, I don't think these protesters realize what they're saying.
I don't even know if they know what river and sea we're talking about.
They're using the slogan, but that's referencing wiping out all of the Jewish population of Israel and the state of Israel. So they're calling for genocide. However, what we now know is either they learned in those 7 months after that what it meant and liked it, so much so to set up encampments and say that they're fine with Hamas, or they knew all along. And I kind of think at this point in the game, it's the latter. They did know all along, and they were calling for genocide openly in America.
Yeah, sadly, I think either people forgot or, as Will said, they've just accepted it and they like it. Let's keep going. Jeffrey said, what can we do to stop states from dropping the Electoral College? Maine just voted to do this. Now, Will's got more information about this. Here's what I'm going to encourage you to do. First, maybe you're a little unsure on how the Electoral College all works. And guess what? We have a side project of the ACLJ called Bald Beagle. It's our children's channel on YouTube. But you know what we've learned is that a lot of adults need this content as well. And one of our most popular videos is, what is the Electoral College and why is it important? Go watch that. But then we can answer this question because, Will, this did come out of the state of Maine, and we are seeing maybe a long road to moving towards away from the Electoral College into a popular vote. And what we know that means, as of right now, with the way population is set up, you would have basically the coasts deciding your election and no representation for people in the middle.
So this is something that many states and particularly people that want the Electoral College to go away and want a national popular vote have been pushing for a long time. And so it's kind of a funny way to get at this end game where they're trying to get enough states to individually say, we will allocate our electoral votes, not based off of the vote within our state, but based off of what the national popular vote is. So instead of, say, Maine, for instance, instead of winning Maine would let their people vote, but then would say, okay, this candidate won the popular vote nationally. All our electoral votes will be going to that candidate.
Ridiculous.
And so this is a thing called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact that they've been trying for years now to get ahead. And right now, states that total 209 electoral votes have signed on some sort of legislation.
So it's getting there.
It's 270 to win. So really, if they get to 270, enough states to get to 270, those states will be deciding the election by popular vote of the United States. Yeah. It doesn't even have to be all 50 states. Yeah. It just has to be 270 to flip the scales to that. It's a dangerous move.
Very dangerous.
Maine just got added to the list. There are several.
What are the other states? Do we have them?
There's California, Oregon, Washington State, Minnesota, New Mexico, Colorado, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, several of the other New England states.
So guess what? Everywhere that would be considered the flyover, as they say, as they negatively insult you if you're watching in any of those states, guess what? Your vote would not matter. That's what they want. They want popular vote only. Why? Because they want representation from the most populated areas, which are where? Those two kind of coastal areas with the biggest amount of liberal elites. Let's just be honest with it. That's what it is. All right, let's continue on. But we're going to watch that, the ACLJ. That's something we should take a look. There's some suggestions that have come in, by the way. I'm going to take those into consideration as well. I think I want to hear from you. What are your suggestions? What would you like the ACLJ to get more involved in that maybe we are not involved in right now? Put that in the comments as well. I'd appreciate it. Where are we at, Will?
Well, let's go to that other question that says, and it was unattributed question. I didn't. It was a handle that I could not read because it was probably an audio generated one. But it says, can we have someone at the ACLJ consistently mention specific socialist tactics so the American people can see why and how their country and constitution is being subverted, and why it's imperative that the American people have an answer when they're being gaslit about so-called conspiracies?
I think that's a great comment. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do, just like I just did. Tell us what you'd like to hear. Your voice is most important. We are a donor-driven organization. Without you, this doesn't happen. So if you have things that are important, bring them up. Now, I will refer to you, as Will told me earlier, any segment you've seen with Harry Hutchinson, the professor, the good professor, he tends to bring this topic up.
That's right. He's very good at knowing the history of socialist thought being introduced mainly through the academy, where he's spent
always through school.
Right. A lot of his background being a professor, but also what he studied, is seeing how that's where it starts. It starts within the academy, within schools, and then by the time it reaches the mainstream, it's become a situation where most people are even numb to hearing about it and not knowing the sources of it.
All right, let's take another question. One comes in from Resilient, said some of us are concerned with the confidence Biden is suddenly showing, including challenging Trump's debate. Is there something they don't know or that they know that we don't? Specifically, should we anticipate election shenanigans in 2024? Shenanigans, you better believe you better anticipate them. You know, whether they happen or not, we better be ready. The other thing would be, I know, Will, you mentioned the confidence. I do think, as much as this, I think, is a Hail Mary moment.
Right.
Well, that's what you think, right?
I think it is. I don't think it's confidence as much as they're freaking out that they may not win because of the polls. And so they are trying desperately to find a way to right the ship.
Yeah, I think that that's a way to look at it. There is that way to look at it that, look, Joe Biden, regardless of his age and all of the things he's been to, in a debate has sometimes shined a bit, okay? In high pressure moments, sometimes he shows up. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Don't get cocky. Don't go in there thinking these debates, especially when they're being run by CNN and ABC, that you're going to come in, Trump is going to just, destroy them, and that's what's going to happen. There's a good chance that's what happens. But if you are in this Trump campaign right now, I would encourage you to take this seriously. We kind of saw what they did at the State of the Union, okay? There are times where Biden can pick up the pace a bit. And there are moments where this happens. I'm not saying it's going to. I'm not saying I want it to. I am saying don't get cocky. Actually pay attention to what's going on. Make sure that you're playing by the rules and make sure they're playing by the rules in these debates. And, of course, in the 2024 election, because at all instances, they are going to try to win, as the Republicans should too. If it's within the realm of the law, we need to be doing it. Whether you're a Republican, honestly, if you're an independent, if you're a Democrat, the gloves have come off. All right, until then, though, go to aclj.org. Look at all the incredible content. If you're new on YouTube, subscribe. If you're new on Rumble, follow. Do all of those things, because that gets the word out there, keeps these messages alive and outside of the legacy media.